Good morning. I have loved this segment. Have you guys loved just how great it is hearing from all these? I have just thought it's fantastic. So, when I was in college, there was a book that was published, written by a guy named Don Miller called Blue Like Jazz, and it was pretty popular among Christian types. So I picked up a copy and I read it. And there's a chapter where he analogizes his faith in God to penguins. He says, my faith in God is like penguins. Specifically, penguins, when they mate, they'll be in a big group and the females will lay the eggs, and then they'll take off to go fishing. And the males will huddle in a big group and keep the eggs warm and wait for the females to come back. And they'll kind of shuffle to the middle and then to the outside, so they're all trying to stay warm at kind of the same rate. And somehow, the females, when they know that it's time for their egg to hatch, will return. Nobody can explain how it is that they know when it's time to return, but they do inevitably right in time for the egg to hatch. And Don Miller says, my faith in God is like that. I don't know how I know that that's the direction that I'm supposed to be going. I don't know how I'm supposed to be assured of it, but I am. And I read that and I thought, I cannot relate. To know something about me is to know that faith is frequently a battle. It's a struggle for me. I grew up in a family that you would characterize their relationship with church as skeptical, suspicious, and disinterested. And I brought that same feeling with me when I was invited to a youth group when I was in 10th grade. And I kept that same sense of suspicion with me when I went on Easter Project. And I happened to flip the Bible open and started reading about this Jesus, and I was extremely compelled by what I read. But I couldn't reconcile what I was starting to learn with the feelings that I had that this just wasn't necessarily the right place for me. And I kept that same feeling when I said yes to starting in a confirmation class my senior year in high school. And in that class, one of the adult leaders was a man named Charlie Shriver, which some of you may know and remember fondly. And I will never forget how in a kind of a small group conversation, Charlie talked about his struggle, his skepticism, the feeling that he had of falling away, coming back, falling away and coming back. And then he says this, he says, but in spite of all that, I believe that my life is a testimony. It's a testimony to God, and my struggle is a testimony. And I was amazed by that. And when I said yes to finally being baptized, it was in part because of that observation and the feeling that possibly my life could be a testimony too. And like I said, I have so enjoyed hearing all these stories. And maybe for you, you can relate to the idea that your faith and your sense in God and God's purpose and movement in your life is like a beacon. And to you, I would say, your life is a testimony, and thank God for your presence here. Maybe you feel some disappointment in the church, and maybe you feel like the church hasn't lived up to its promise of creating a more perfect kingdom here on earth, and that your struggle, I would say, to the extent that you work for justice and you work for a more equitable life together, your life is a testimony. Maybe you can relate to me, and maybe you feel a bit like a fraud, or that somebody might find out that you came into church through the side door, or that you crawled through a window and maybe your hands are still bleeding a little bit from the broken glass. And I would say your life, my life, is a testimony as well. I thank God for all the stories that are here. I thank God for the stories that we've heard and the stories that we haven't. I thank God for this church, and I thank God for our life together. Thank you and amen.